4 years ago, Emerson's Ministerial Search Committee began a year-long process of finding a new settled minister for Emerson. And at the same time, I began the process of searching for a congregation to serve. By the end of December 2009, the search committee and I had our first phone date. And it began, as my grandmother would say, a courting relationship. To my great joy, Emerson and I found each other to be suitable partners. I've been asked on more than one occasion if I knew what I was getting into, regarding the building, of course. Yes, I would say it's a lovely little building from the 19th century. Yes, I knew Emerson's building needs were a top priority. And I want to honor the changes that the members of Emerson have made to the building to keep Emerson as a vital congregation. Buying additional property is what members did a number of years ago. The modular buildings that we have now for our religious education space. And actually, this room used to be full of pews. And we decided we could actually serve more people if we had chairs. And so it's a big project to remove the pews and to refinish the floor. But more important than the what we would be doing together, I knew an important value that Emerson and I shared. You see, the Ministerial Search Committee and I agreed that respectful relationships in conversations, in emails, would be the key to a successful ministry at Emerson. It continues to be the ethic that best serves this congregation. As to the what we would be doing together, there is an excitement in a building project. It's an opportunity to focus, and it's an opportunity to be clear about our values. Here is perhaps the best news. In the 3 years we have been working on Emerson's building project, we have been faithful to good process, and we have been consistently rewarded for it. This does not mean that the process has not had its bumps. Bumps and building projects go hand in hand. Having a few bumps along the way means that we have additional opportunities to use good process to find the best, most inclusive solutions as we have progressed. After my arrival at Emerson, one of the first questions we had to answer was, could we afford to move elsewhere? The answer was and still is a resounding no. To the best of our knowledge, and we have looked, to the best of our knowledge, there is no affordable space presently available within a 5-mile radius that would serve our needs. Emerson's future is here. The next phase of Emerson's building project was to determine exactly what Emerson wanted to achieve by remodeling our space. Here again, through good process, we arrived at some definitive answers. Emerson came together in November 2011 to develop new vision and mission statements. And at the same time, we asked, what do we want to accomplish in our new building, our renovated building? Our first priority in the building project was to achieve accessibility. Radical inclusion is part of our vision statement, and by far Emerson members identified accessibility as our greatest need. There are other attributes we desire in our renovated building, but to be quite candid, each of these is a distant second. I will say more about these other attributes in the second half of my sermon. Improved accessibility means a paved parking lot. It means a ramp to supplement the stairs in the front of our building. And it means accessible bathrooms, among other things. If you're questioning all the fuss we're making about a gravel parking lot, let me tell you the story from San Miguel de Allende, Mexico, where I went on sabbatical with my family in 2007. In San Miguel de Allende, the town planners chose to keep the colonial cobblestone streets, and they're beautiful. However, many women in heels have tried unsuccessfully to negotiate those cobblestone streets. And now, San Miguel de Allende is known as the city of fallen women. If you don't know, 3 members of Emerson have had serious falls on our gravel-stone parking lot. I want to talk about Emerson's next steps, so let me bring us up to the present. Utilizing our building priorities, a year and a half ago, we worked with our architect, Randy Young, and an assortment of engineers to consider our options and preliminary cost estimates. We then hired Barry Finkelstein, a UUA stewardship consultant, who told us that we could raise between $450,000 and $500,000 in a capital campaign. He did that by meeting with a number of members of the congregation. To our credit, when we looked at the entire congregation, Emerson members pledged $517,000. And with a loan amount approved by the congregation, Emerson had a plan. Excuse me. Here, though, is one of those bumps. When we went back to the engineers for more detailed cost estimates, which the detailed cost estimates are more expensive than the preliminary estimates, we learned that the first estimates were significantly low. Even with value engineering, which resulted in 2 substantial engineering changes, we were still short by $300,000. We knew all of this last May at the congregational meeting. This summer, we learned more about our finance options. And in the last 2 months, the building committee, the Building Oversight Coordinating Committee, and the Board of Trustees have considered those options. There is good news. There is strong consensus, a unanimous vote by the Board of Trustees about the direction we should go. To overcome the $300,000 shortfall, the Board of Trustees is recommending a 2-pronged approach, and the recommendation will be voted on at the September 29th congregational meeting. The Board of Trustees is recommending first that we reopen the capital campaign this fall to raise additional funds. There is good evidence that when the needs are clear and compelling, members will respond. And second, the Board of Trustees is recommending that we increase our loan amount as long as we stay below a 20% debt service ratio. That is the amount we pay on debt as a percentage of our operating budget. If you don't know, conventional wisdom advises congregations to stay below a 25% debt service ratio, so 20% is viewed as a conservative recommendation. What I want to do in my remaining time is to continue to look at Emerson's next steps, but not limited to the building project. I want to imagine with you Emerson's future, both in the near term and when the building project is complete. First, I believe it's critically important to understand that the building is simply a means to an end. To build a building is not the reason that Emerson exists. So what then is the vision? As by now you know, Emerson's vision statement is to be a radically inclusive, open-minded, beloved community that is a vibrant source of peace, hope, and healing. Our vision statement speaks, first of all, in its first few words, to radical inclusion. So it can be rightfully stated that the building is certainly motivated by our vision. People who are not currently able to enter and use our building will be able to do so. But it's also important to understand that the building project utilizes our most precious resources, the talents and time of our members. We must accept the reality that giving full attention to our vision is currently limited because many of our resources, our people, are devoted to the building project. I find this an additional motivation to move forward with the building project with all deliberate speed. Completing the building renovation will allow us to get about the business of vision and mission with more focus and determination. In February 2012, I gave a sermon on Emerson's new vision statement, and I thought I would speak about the entire statement, but I never got beyond the phrase radical inclusion. I found it fun and meaningful in that sermon to propose many ways that we can be radically inclusive. I've also given sermons on the beloved community, and as a Unitarian Universalist congregation, remaining open-minded will always find resonance here at Emerson. So let me now turn my attention to the remainder of our vision statement, a vibrant source of peace, hope, and healing. There's been an important convergence of ideas in the last 4 years at Emerson that speak directly to this part of our vision. For me, it began with my conversation with the Ministerial Search Committee about respectful relationships, peaceful relationships. So let me challenge you. We have the right words. We talk a good game, and most of the time we do this well. And now I really want to push the envelope. What does it mean to truly be the embodiment of peace, hope, and healing? During my first year at Emerson, we initiated a congregational theme of peacemaking. One of the most meaningful insights made by the Peacemaking Committee was the realization that we don't create peace in the world if we have not first found peace in our own hearts. Through that insight, the Peacemaking Committee offered us the truest revelation I have ever seen in a congregation's vision statement. For Emerson, true peace begins in the heart of each member of the congregation. If a vibrant source of peace, hope, and healing is part of our vision, then peace in the heart is the place to start. I hope you can appreciate that peace in the heart is even an antecedent to respectful relationships. There is no respectful relationship without peace in the heart. I want to offer 3 examples from the world's religions that speak so eloquently to this. The first is from words attributed to Lao Tzu, the legendary founder of Taoism. These words are found in reading 602 in our gray hymnal. In all the turmoil in the world today, these words could not be more relevant. The words of Lao Tzu begin, if there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. And then the reading proceeds step by step by step, concluding that the only true starting place for peace is that there must be peace in the heart. In the Buddhist tradition, it is so clear that our attachments are the source of our suffering. We are attached to being right. We are attached to having the last word in an argument with our best friend or partner. We are attached to what we believe we deserve. For Buddhism, our suffering and attachments are caused by the absence of peace in our hearts. And peace in the heart is found on the lips of Jesus when he said, "The kingdom of God is within." The Peacemaking Committee initiated our work with nonviolent communication. I believe that NVC has so much to teach us about having peace in our own hearts. And that group ended its work last May, And I hope that we can return to doing the work and the study of nonviolent communication next January. Here, though, is part of the rub. The leaders of the original peacemaking committee are no longer available to do that work. One moved away, and the other is now leading our building project. With a significant number of leaders working on the building project, this will limit the work we do in other areas to achieve our vision. And yet my belief is that we can and must continue to focus first and foremost on creating peace in the heart. That is the critical piece of our vision, and this is the part we can do now. But there is another part to Emerson's vision, perhaps a couple of years away, that involves taking our vision more deliberately into Cobb County and the surrounding communities. That is, for Emerson as a faith community to be a vibrant source of peace, hope, and healing, not just for members of Emerson, but for the larger community. With the first goal of peace in our own hearts, there are innumerable opportunities to put these into practice outside these walls. For Emerson to let its light shine and be the beacon of Unitarian Universalism in Cobb County and surrounding areas. So imagine with me becoming a peacemaking center. With a reputation, Emerson has a reputation now for bringing peaceful solutions to the ills of our community. Let me offer just 3 examples that could bring its vision of where Emerson could bring its vision of peace, hope, and healing into the larger community. And I will tell you now, out of full transparency, no committee has blessed these 3 ideas I'm about to give you. They are entirely my own. One place to start, though, is with the children. We're all aware that bullying is a significant problem in our schools. What would it mean if Emerson became a center and a resource addressing this critical need in our community? This would not be a one-time program. This is not a Sunday afternoon program, but would be an ongoing commitment to seriously address the problem of bullying in our schools. And if I may be so bold, we could also address the idea of bullying in public discourse, which is what you see if you read the newspaper. Here's a second example. What if the Emerson Unitarian Universalist congregation developed a reputation for having a meaningful, even-handed, respectful candidates forum before all elections? As the organizer of such forums, we would set the tone and the expectations for candidates to engage in meaningful dialogue, not finger-pointing, not name-calling, not ad hominem attacks that only serve to sabotage meaningful dialogue. A third example, there will be other times when we intentionally, methodically, and peacefully take our values out into the community. We know that marriage equality will be achieved one day in Georgia. What would it mean if Emerson became the leader for this issue in our area? And not just with one event a year as we do now, and which is wonderful, but with one event a month dedicated to marriage equality. Emerson would be the leader in this area. Perhaps more immediately, and I don't know if this is true or if I dreamt it, but I believe I heard yesterday on NPR about proposed legislation in the Georgia General Assembly to ban gay to straight conversion therapy. I can think of no more meaningful way to live out our vision of peace, hope, and healing than to be peaceful partners and advocates for such legislation. As harmful as that kind of healing therapy, that proposed therapy is, I would love to be a partner to ban it. I want to return for just a moment to our building project. I've spoken about accessibility as our first priority. A second priority, though, in Emerson's building project is that it reflect our environmental sensitivities. Unfortunately, LEED certification, the primary program for environment-friendly building design and construction, is more expensive than we can afford and is not being considered by Emerson right now. But here is the good news. We are working with an architect, Randy Young, who is LEED trained and LEED certified, and who shares our interest in the environment. I'm confident, and he has told me, that he will bring that knowledge to his work with us, even if we don't spend the extra dollars to be LEED certified. Here is more good news. The Unitarian Universalist Association has a green sanctuary program by which congregations audit all aspects of congregational life and then implement practices in the congregation reflecting greater environmental consciousness. All of this is to say that other values are coming into play as we move forward with our building project. And this will continue with additional programming in our new renovated space. This morning, I've mentioned a few potential programs in the larger community and here at Emerson, in keeping with our vision and our values. As meaningful as these programs are, I want to return our attention to one unifying element, our vision statement, and my belief that the starting place for anything that Emerson does is peace in the heart of its members. This does not mean we have to be perfect at it. It does mean that peace in the heart is first and foremost on our minds. It means an awareness of how we speak to others, and that does matter, especially when someone disappoints us. And it means that what we write in our emails does matter. Having peace in the heart should affect what we say in our email correspondence. And I will even be so bold as to say that to have peace in the heart, to have that as our goal, then each of us must individually monitor our own thoughts, because this too matters. Because peaceful thoughts do not come to us naturally. I know this by personal experience. And so monitoring those thoughts is another way to achieve peace in the heart. As we move forward in Emerson's building project, I invite you to commit Emerson's vision statement to heart. Please join me, if you can, to be a radically inclusive, open-minded, beloved community that is a vibrant source of peace, hope, and healing. Thank you for that. Let us be the peace we wish to see in the world. May it be so.